Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Oh no! Hold on. Oh, now you all know my secret. Only the early arrivals know my secret. Ladies and gentlemen, it is September 3rd. Welcome to September. I'm Sean. This is the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. You say it with an I every time. Hope you're doing well. Hope your week's going well. You're halfway there. Halfway. The Phantom in the chat room. Mission Ready Man says, I'm here. Now we can begin. I'm so glad I was waiting for you. I was waiting for you. And you're on time. The Phantom was here early, though. Just so everyone's keeping record. Got a lot to talk about this evening. Tonight's show is titled Orange Man Bad. Good evening, Mike, in the chat room. Thank you so much. Everyone's starting to file in on chat. If you want to join chat, you can go to youtube.com, search up SHR Media. You'll see we have the little live circle right now. You can click it and jump the chat with everybody else. Title of the show, as I said, is Orange Man Bad. The left's innate, inane, and incredible ability to have so little image about what they want to do without any direction, without any ideas about how they can improve this country, that all they can yell is Orange Man Bad. As I go through all these different facts and segments, and I have two different sets of notes, I'm going to show you that no matter what they say, no matter what grandstanding they do, no matter what big words like this they say.
Are you prepared to defend this land that was built by slaves, a land that was built by indigenous people, a land that is built by workers? Are you prepared to defend this land? The people united will always prevail. I need you all to stand firm, to stand strong. If this president decides to continue to break this Constitution.
As Mayor McNutt was so happily talking about, we're going to defend this land that slaves built. Slaves built these lands, by the way. Beautiful downtown Chicago. But as you can see, he didn't say towards what. He didn't say what the goal was. We're going to defend these lands. But what are you going to accomplish by doing that? More people are going to die? More people are going to get murdered? Is that the plan? Is that the goal for you? Because I said before with Chicago, and I put up a graphic today on X, follow me at number 2 against tyranny, that the murders per day between Mogadishu and Chicago are less than 1. On average, Mogadishu has 2 a day from violence. And by the way, they're in the middle of a quasi-civil war. Hey, Ricky Robinson's in the chat room, Ricky. And Chicago only has 1 less death per day than Mogadishu, that's in a weird sort of civil war. Mayor McCheese, as Mike says, he's Mayor McSomething, I'll tell you what. And they're just going to sit there and just keep saying Orange Man Bad. That's their solution for everything. And how do they get there? How do they get to this point that that is their only defense? Well, it started with gaslighting, as we will see here. And this was a new one. This isn't even an old one. This is the last couple days, but this is the type of gaslighting they did for years.
He's got these magical doctors who claim that he was shot in the ear, but his ear, I guess, grew back. He had a Duplo bandage on 1 minute, no bandage the next. We can't get a medical record from this alleged assassination. He was supposedly shot. We have nothing. We've got nothing.
Where's the investigative? Where are the investigative records? One day he slapped his maxi pad on his ear. The next day the ear is totally fine.
It's fine. And
this is not a new approach for the Democrats. This sort of, oh, thank you for the nice chair. Appreciate that. I've had it for a long time, but it's still in good shape. This is something the Democrats have been doing back to 06, 07. That is when they decided that they were no longer going to be reasonable and start this march down Progressive Boulevard. Now, we all know the Woodrow Wilson, the 100-year plan for Democrats, yada, yada, yada. Their whole plan is to reshape this country, not to what the founders wanted, but to what they wanted, right? Which is why no matter what Trump does, good or indifferent, it's always bad. And so you go back, what was happening? Well, the Uniparty was in charge under Bush, right? Before Obama came into office. And it started to get out that the Iraq war was started for the second time under false pretenses. It started to become the narrative. And the Uniparty lost control. And the biggest difference in that, even back then, was social media was in its infancy. You had MySpace, you had other things, but people were starting to talk to each other. And the Uniparty couldn't have that, right? So they needed to find something to change the narrative away from, hey, our government created this war that we didn't need. Afghanistan, absolutely. Iraq, perhaps going to get a few people, but we didn't need to have this full-blown war that lasted a year and caused hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of American deaths. And it still hasn't, Iraq will never be a normal country. We all know that. So they needed to make a change. So what they started to do was they started to look ahead and find a boogeyman. And they found it very easily in law enforcement. That was their boogeyman at the time, which is why the rise of Barack Obama came so easily. What was it that Joe Biden said, calling him the first mainstream African-American who is articulate and bright with a clean and nice-looking guy? Right? They had this guy who was a junior senator who didn't know much of anything. Nobody knew who the hell he was. Nobody knew who Barack Obama was. And I don't care who you drag in front of a microphone who's going to say, oh, I know Barack back in the day. Nobody knew who Barack Obama was because he had no history. He had no real history. And we had no way of digging up whatever history he might have had. But they found their person to change the conversation. Remember, back then, the Uniparty was strong. As we know now, as we've seen now with the amount of information we're able to get from the internet, we know the Uniparty even 8 years ago was different. Now winded up almost 20 years ago. And how different that Uniparty was there. Democrats and Republicans, right? They knew for a fact that it was going to be all of them going down or none of them going down. So they changed. They changed how they did things. They got into divisive politics. And one of the things that they started to do really well is it's not just Democrat against Republican anymore. No, it's black versus white. It is black versus Hispanic. It is black versus Asians. It's Asians versus Hispanics. It's Asian versus white. They started down this road where they use this young, charismatic, an outsider, right, to start pushing this narrative. And then what do? They tie in an old guy, an old Democrat, an old senator, Joe Biden, to get that older vote. The people are going to be like, that guy's a little unskilled. He's new. We don't know anything about him. Which At the time, and even still now, many people believe in order to be successful in Washington, you have to be in Washington a long time. We know that's not true, but there's still people to this day that buy that narrative, which is why Joe Biden got elected the last time. It's because enough people bought that narrative, and Orange Man bad. Those two things together equal to Joe Biden being elected. Mike Pasco says, yeah, man versus woman, 100%. Male versus woman, kids versus their parents, right? America's versus the banks. And I'm not saying the banks were innocent victims and all that, but remember Occupy Wall Street? They needed to sow turmoil in the streets. They needed people to hate each other. So the uniparty in government becomes that unifying force. Yeah, absolutely. $20 from Mike Pasqua. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that, man. If Uncle Joe likes him, then Obama is okay. Yeah, that's 100%. I'm so thankful for Mike. And the way it came up here, I didn't get to see the big flash. So at first I thought I didn't know it was actually accurate. So I really appreciate that, Mike. Thank you for donating. That means the world to me. But yeah, they used Biden to get Obama over the hump politically. And then Rage sold. You had the 24-hour news cycle that was really, for the first time, in full-blown mode. You had CNN, MSLSD. You had people starting to get their news from the internet. You had social media. They figure out, hey, we can manipulate that. We can move that. They figured out, oh, if we get to these social media companies, we can tell them behind the scenes what's okay and what's not okay. We know that with Twitter and Jack Dorsey. We know that was occurring, and it didn't just start happening. We know that for a long time too. So weaponized identity politics back in 06 to 08 was in its infancy. Find a common enemy, find a straw man, and when you can't find any of those, you just bullshit your way through it. That's all you do. Just lie. What are they going to do? How are they going to find out if you're just lying? What's a little fib here and there? You'll find out what's passed. You'll find out what's in the bill when we pass it. Let's see. If you like your doctor, you can keep it, right? You start doing these lies because even then, they didn't realize social media and the internet was going to be forever. And the ones that they did know, they figured they could control. 20 suspended accounts under Jack Dorsey. Yeah, everybody. Hey, Kiwi Lass is joining us in the chat room. All the way over from New Zealand. Orty's in the chat. BZ's in the chat. Mike obviously is in the chat. He donated again. Thank you, Mike. Hey, Phantom's in the chat. You can be in the chat. Go to SHR Media on YouTube. So they figured out the formula. And then when they weren't scaring the hell out of people enough, they needed a catalyst. Oh, Mike Brown. There was this young black male who was shot. Screw what really happened. We're going to say he was shot because he was black. We're not going to wait for evidence to come out because we don't do that. Oh, Trayvon Martin. Obama saying that could be like my son. If you look back and you start to see the words that they were using, making it personalized, making it about Barack Obama, right? And people started to get mad. And then they realized that was perfect. That's exactly what they wanted. They wanted everybody to be at each other's throats, telling everyone they're being victimized by the other person. And that if it wasn't for this group, you'd be fine. Because then the focus turns to each other. And it's no longer focused on the people running the country. It's no longer focused on the fact that we just got tricked into a war by everyone who told us it was fine. Dick Cheney and the others, people who all of a sudden side with Democrats, right? So they had that. They had Obamacare, right? If you weren't for, let's go to the election of Barack Obama. If you weren't going to vote for Barack Obama, guess what? You were a racist. It didn't matter if you had no voting record really to stand on. It didn't matter that we didn't know anything about him or we were asking questions. If you did not vote for Barack Obama or want Barack Obama to be president, you were racist. And I will tell you, at least 4 times, I had people ask me if I was going to vote for Obama. And when I said no, they started calling me a racist. It had nothing to do with the fact of politics and policies, right? But the match was lit. The fuse was lit. They knew the country was going to explode. And as soon as it started to thin out or ease out, boom, they throw another controversy. All right, so you didn't vote Obama for you're a racist, but the racist thing's not going. So let's blow up the Michael Brown incident. Let's blow up the Trayvon Martin incident. NBC, let's edit the 911. Mission ready men, 100%. You were told that if you didn't vote for Obama, then you weren't really black, right? People forget NBC edited the 911 tape from the Trayvon Martin shooting, right? That's the first, pardon me, my throat dried out. That's the first real modern indicator that media was working with a narrative when it came out. And then, of course, there was no accountability. It was just, oh, yeah, we accidentally did that. And they knew damn well what they were doing. We were told in July 15, 2009, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. If you like your healthcare plan, you can keep your healthcare plan. And that was all lies. All of it was. And when it finally came to fruition, everybody called out Obama on it. You were racist for asking questions. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. The law, if you ever look back at the old Obamacare tapes and you realize how bad it was and why so many people today, like I said, my health insurance went to shit after Obamacare. Everywhere I went, it was garbage. I had great health insurance prior. My 4 previous knee surgeries before Obamacare did not cost me an exorbitant amount of money. I just paid my copay and that was it. Every surgery since has cost me at least $6,000 to $10,000 minimally. And I'm not stepping down my quality of health insurance, my cost ratios. I'm staying in the same bracket. Just the quality of service has gone down. Even PolitiFact repeated the lie that are finally admitted back in 2009 that the law will lower premiums for $2,500 in the typical family, and that was a lie. That was said in the 2008 campaign, repeated in the 2009 campaign, and now we know it has done none of that. Zilch, zero. But you see where I'm going. They built up the straw man. They have us at each other's throats, but now government's going to be the savior. And if you didn't vote for Obamacare, or you didn't support Obamacare, well, you hated seniors. You wanted people to die. Despite the fact of all the evidence that we've seen about how horrible Obamacare was. And we all knew it was coming. All of us who talked about this, who read Obamacare, or read what was supposed to be in Obamacare, because remember, you can find out what's in it once you pass it, right? Another trick that politicians do. Everything but the content, everything but what they want you to know is what you're being seen and shown. And they continue with the, if you're not with us, you were against us. 2008, Barack Obama said, I need you to go out and talk to your friends and talk to your neighbors. I want you to talk to them like whether they're independent or they're Republicans. I want you to argue with them and get in their face. Now take it to the streets. It's no longer just on social media. It's no longer just on the news. It's no longer just politicians standing in front of a dais or a podium. Now, break the taboo that this country had for years. Break that thing that just because we don't agree doesn't mean we can't be friends. I want you to break that and engage these people. Force yourself upon them. Get in their face is what Obama said. I want you to argue with them. Keep going. You now see, as we get larger and larger, and you pull back and you get this 30,000-foot view all these years later. And many of us knew when I started podcasting in, 2010, 2011. We knew a lot of this stuff, but then the scandals came. Let's see. Trayvon Martin, I mentioned. Lois Lerner and the IRS targeting conservatives. Maxine Waters. Yeah, there's another one. Maxine Waters. You also had the one from San Francisco there, the senator who was so old she didn't know where she was half the time. Feinstein, right? She had her driver was a Chinese spy for years. Nobody ever talked about that. Then the Benghazi attack happened in 2012. The administration claimed it was caused by YouTube. They didn't talk about the fact that we just went in and we just essentially did what we're not supposed to do, which is force a regime change. We didn't pull the trigger that killed Gaddafi, but we did everything but. We forced that issue in a Middle East country that we had no right being in. And as I said before, Gaddafi was an absolute screwball, but he was contained. But no, Hillary Clinton needed to play God. You remember Hillary Clinton, the one who sold off all of our uranium and the Uranium One deal to Russia. But man, it's funny how much money went into the Clinton Foundation before that. So you now, in 2025, you look back and you have to ask yourself, how are we so stupid? How do we not see all of this coming? Fast and the Furious, gun walking, right? You had a attorney general get impeached, refused to prosecute himself, Eric Holder. Impeached by the Congress. Yeah, DOJ is not going to prosecute that. Wait, what? And you start to see, and then again, if you go back and you look and you even listen to pundits now on the left, the Obama administration, the man who ordered an American citizen and a 16-year-old son, however big scumbags they were, to be killed in a drone attack without a trial. And before you say, well, the Venezuelans in the boats, they're not American citizens, they're narco-terrorists, it's an entirely different conversation. This guy, as much as he was a shitbag, and he was, doesn't change the fact that he was an American citizen and he was entitled to rights that he gets under our Constitution. The ones that they scream and hide about behind every chance they get. Obama ordered that, but they'll look back and they'll say, but there's no controversy when Obama was in office. He was so reasonable. He was so gentle. He was a great communicator. He reached people. He touched people. No, he didn't reach people and touch people. He enraged people. He was the enrager in chief. Jesus Saves in the chat room. Thank you. Yeah, he was an American citizen. And then it goes, like I said, the Benghazi attack. So we now push forward into this point just before Trump starts becoming a name. We're 2014-ish when we were told there's not a smidgen of corruption within the IRS. Flash forward to 2015 and a half. And all of a sudden, Donald Trump's name comes up. And for the longest time, they didn't take him seriously. They didn't acknowledge him as a reason. I mean, there's so many clips online, so many clips about how he's not going to go anywhere. He can't do anything. Donald Trump will never be elected president, blah, blah, blah. All these experts, so-called experts. And all of a sudden, once he starts polling to a certain point and it becomes obvious to them, they went from this guy will never go anywhere to he is the biggest threat this country has ever seen. Zero scandals. He was scandal-free, mission-ready men. Sarcasm, folks. This is all sarcasm. He was absolutely not scandal-free. Obama is as evil as they come. Yeah, I mean, he was definitely the wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, again, the Occupy movement, BLM, all of that stuff went off the hook. We hadn't seen rioting like we saw in this country, and it was not organic. And we all know that now because of what we've seen in the last year. Well, we all knew it wasn't organic back then, but we had no proof. But now we have proof. We have all these PACs and these groups and everything that have this dark hidden money that start these pop-up protests. Cities burned as a result of this, and they were allowed to burn. And we were told they were mostly peaceful protests. And as I said before, once Donald Trump became a legitimate threat, the outsider, the guy who doesn't have to do it for money, the guy who didn't care what he said and who he said it to, he went after Republicans just the same. He went after Democrats just the same. And more importantly, he went after Hillary Clinton. I say more importantly because that's what really got the target on his back. All of a sudden, orange man bad. You have bleach bit with Hillary Clinton. You have uranium one. You have all the questionable money that went into the Clinton Foundation. Everything that happened in Haiti after the fact is the first time you really started to hear about the Epstein flights. All of this stuff is just bubbling beneath the surface. It was all in plain sight, but we had a lapdog media and control over a lot of the social media where you didn't know about it. And how do I know that? Because when we started podcasting, when podcasting was just in its infancy, we saw the moment, and I can remember it late 2015, mid 2016, before the election, where our numbers tanked because somebody turned around and said, oh, hey, we can screw with the algorithm, and now that message won't get out anymore. When Clint, BZ, and I were doing Sackheads Radio back in the day, in this very room, in this studio right here, and we were averaging 10 to 12,000 downloads a show, sometimes more. And then all of a sudden, once Trump became the threat, once Orange Man Bad became an issue, it went away. The numbers dropped. We weren't producing any differently. We were actually, we never missed a show. There was 3 of us. So even if one of us couldn't make it, we had a show. So we had consistency. We had, and this was all podcasts. We weren't doing video at the time. It tanked. So then we, as an organization, said, well, maybe it's the video adaptation. You're now starting to see podcasts show up on video. People are doing long form video content. So we started doing that as well. Could not get a grip again whatsoever. The numbers never came back. And I would have people who I know personally that listen to the show that would say, hey, did you guys stop putting your show out? It doesn't even show up on Spreaker anymore. I don't see your posts on YouTube and Facebook. What happened? And what happened was fear. Orange Man Bad. They were losing control. The Uniparty, not just the Democrats. The old guard Republicans as well. The warmongers, the ones who just absolutely need to make money by causing wars and blowing shit up and not really caring about the Constitution, not really caring about the American citizens. And you know who they are, Dick Cheney and the lot. All of them said, hey, we got to put a stop to this. we can't have these people just running around with opinions and presenting evidence and facts that make us look bad. What can we do? Well, now you start seeing government showing up at these social media sites. Hey, we need to talk. And no, we never had this conversation. But we're going to start making sure that some of this bad language, the stuff that's maybe not true, isn't seen because it's really bad. It's almost like when COVID hit, they already had this blueprint set up for how to stop voices. And it's because they had. It's because during the Obama administration, and maybe at the end of the Bush administration, it wouldn't shock me. You think of everything that we got with Bush, but with Obama, the Patriot Act was fully in place. They absolutely, and remember, Barack Obama tried to put FCC monitors in every newsroom in the country to monitor and approve what was going to be said. You think they're not making a phone call to social media? You think they're not killing voices? And it wasn't just SHR. We had a lot of partners and friends back in the days, different networks, different organizations, different websites, all of them, just like Lois Lerner went after the conservatives with the IRS. All conservative numbers were being hit. And we know this now. It's been proven time and again. We've seen the evidence of it. But Orange Man Bad is what they have to go back to, because they now needed a boogeyman. They now needed to do this. Wait. Haha, there he is. This is exactly what it was. They were going to hang every sign on Donald Trump before he stepped into office that they possibly could. And if that didn't work, they were going to spy on him and try to get dirt on him. And we saw all of that take place. We'll talk about that after the break, right here on the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Ever dream of escaping the daily grind? At Escapist Travel and Tours, we make those dreams your reality. From breathtaking adventures to cultural immersions, we offer escapes tailored just for you. Let us take you to places where every moment feels like a new chapter in your life's adventure. Visit www.escapist.travel or call us today at 1-855-885-81776. Your escape awaits.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. Special thanks to our friends over at KLRN Radio for the simulcast and the replays. Make sure you check out Rick and the crew over at KLRN. They're awesome, and their new schedule looks incredible. If I can find the genius that did that, it would just be, I'd high five them. That's just me. Thank you to everyone in chat this evening. Of course, you have Kiwi Lass. You have, oh, my pen just exploded. Well, that's fun. Kiwi Lass. BZ, Mission Ready Man. I saw Rick in there earlier. I saw Ordy in there. I think I saw the Lost Wonder in there. And of course, the amazing Phantom is in there. Mike, who donated early, and I appreciate it so much. Oh, there's the Cosmic Bard chiming in. And if you want to join the conversation, go to the SHR YouTube channel. Hey, while you're there, like and subscribe. We're up to 609. We're going to talk about that too, how all of a sudden we started picking up listeners and followers on YouTube. How a year ago we were at like 250. We'll get there. But thank you all for being here this evening. And all of you who listen on the podcast as well. So then Trump gets in office. Their nightmares are realized. And it didn't come without controversy. It didn't come easily. Obama bugged his White House, or bugged Trump Tower. They did a honeypot on one of his associates. Anything they could do. This is the United States government. And then all of a sudden people said, wait a minute. How did you do that without evidence? How did you just tap it? Oh, we got a FISA warrant. Well, what's the FISA warrant process? Well, we can't really tell you. Right? It doesn't really. I mean, nobody can ever see what happened with the FISA warrants, which is why when we started talking about the Patriot Act, everyone said, wait a minute. The rest of us, law-abiding citizens, we have to, in order to get a driver's license or in order to do this, we have to prove certain things. In order to get electricity at my house, I have to prove something. But you could just grab a FISA warrant and tap the elected president-elect. Okay. Russia. The collusion started. And then, of course, they start telling us, well, Trump, Adam Schiff, hey, Trump, we got video evidence that Trump was urinated on by a prostitute. And I'm going to bring it to you any week now. Next week, no, it's definitely coming next week. Nope. The week after that, you're going to see Trump being peed on by a hooker. Over and over. And then you found out that wasn't true. And then you found out they said, oh, Russia interfered with the election. And then we started looking into it, and we know now what we knew then. The only real interference came internally at the polling stations themselves, the ballot stuffers. No, there's no widespread corruption in our elections. 2017 is when Democrats adopted Orange Man Bad. That's when they really dove into it. Because what happened was, for the first time in years since Reagan, you had a president who was in touch with people. And yeah, he was this rich guy, and none of us knew what we were going to get. And I still didn't agree with everything he did in his first term. But you had a guy who was reaching people beyond party lines, who were reaching people who were never in a party. I read a post today that said, the centrists in this country need to grow a backbone. Well, I'll tell you something. I used to be a centrist back in the day. Really, the whole ideology of a centrist is, look, don't make me pay a lot of taxes. Don't make me pay for stupid shit. Leave my constitutional rights alone and leave government out of my life. And the Democrats said, that's cool, bro, but no, under Obama, we're going to get into every aspect of your life. We're going to get into your kids' life. We're going to start pushing all these social issues that we have no right pushing. We are going to change how this entire country works. So when you have a then candidate Trump reaching out to regular people, hey, we're going to talk about the border. Hey, we're going to talk about taxes and actually trying to bring them down. We're going to do all of these things. Was he perfect? No. He is an imperfect man. There's sometimes he says things that I wish he didn't. But that's all small potatoes on the big picture. On the big screen, on the big picture. It's all small potatoes. Yeah, he runs his mouth sometimes. Yeah, he sometimes says things. And we know now he says a lot of things just to piss off media because it drives him crazy and he gets a kick out of it. And he should. After everything that media and the left has done to him, why shouldn't he troll the shit out of them? And I think now we understand more now than we ever did about him being a troll. So the Russia collusion thing happened. And of course, even Mueller found that there was no collusion, which BZ said earlier. But they still painted him a traitor. They still went investigation after investigation after investigation. Orange Man Bad. And it didn't matter if Orange Man was good because they didn't want the people involved. That's what it was. When Trump said, They don't want to go after me. They want to go after you, and I'm standing in the way. It made the realization for this entire nation how bad the Uniparty was and just how bad they were in control of every aspect of our life in places you didn't even know they were at. We all knew the CIA was doing shit all over the world in places that we didn't want to talk about. We all knew that there was sometimes they just had to do shit, and we just didn't get told. And you're finding out more now, right? A lot of these former operators are going on YouTube and the like and telling stories and all that stuff. People are going, holy shit. You wonder how all of these dark ops got funded. Then we found out about USAID. We find out over and over and over that government was just doing shit behind our backs. And the fact that it was going to be exposed, i.e. the swamp, and even when it got exposed a little bit, they went crazy. Because here is something that dawned on me recently as I was thinking about this segment for the last couple of weeks, and just how to putting notes together and putting things together. There was a scene from a movie. You remember the movie Men in Black? Now, it was a good movie. I enjoyed Men in Black. It was funny. It was fun. But the whole premise of Men in Black is there's this quasi-government organization that does things that they have to do to protect the planet. They don't answer anybody. They don't follow laws. They don't follow rules. And this speech in Men in Black sticks to me now more than it ever has before.
Humans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy. They think they have a good bead on things.
Well, why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it.
Yeah. And they weigh on that. They bet on that. They absolutely use that to their advantage. And he's right. People are dumb. The person is smart. People are dumb in groups. See every single protest that looks like this. Hold on. I have proof right here.
So we let it happen. Let's let our Congress beat it. I was asleep before. That's how we let it happen. Let's let our Congress beat it.
People.
I was asleep before. That's how we let it happen. Let's let our Congress beat it.
You leverage that. That is what you get.
I was asleep before. That's how we let it.
The people out of government for years. For years. And then all of a sudden it starts getting exposed and everyone's panicking. They're starting to convince people that The Handmaid's Tale is going to be a real life story. Even though we all know that's not true. You have people like Jasmine Crockett who go out, when she was asked, was it this weekend? Whoever interviewed her was asked, what are the Democrats? What do they propose? What are their ideas? What are they going to do? And she wanted a 10-minute rant about why Republicans were terrible. Well, yeah, of course you're going to go on rants about why
There have been a lot of swear words.
terrible. I expect that of a politician. But one of the things that politicians used to do is provide ideas, provide a future, and weigh that as part of their election process, right? I'm going to put this out there. I am going to tell you what I actually want to do, and then hopefully that and my bullshit artistry will get me elected. Now, they don't talk about that. But what they do is they go out and say insane, ridiculous, over-the-top shit and hope that's the soundbite. You had Tim Walz this weekend hoping that President Trump died, the sitting president of the United States. Now, I said a lot of bad things about Joe Biden. I said a lot of bad things about Spirit Halloween. Right? I said a lot of things about Joe Biden. I never wished ill upon Joe Biden. And I'll tell you right now, as I'm looking through all of these other commentators that are in the chat room with us tonight, all the other hosts that are in the chat room with us tonight, I don't think any of us ever said a thing about his health personally. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of us sat here and said it's horrible what they are doing to Biden, but we never wished Biden bad. I said before, when Biden was first elected, I hope he does well because the country does well. right? When that happens. I did not like his policies. I did not like who he was. I was not a revisionist where all of a sudden Joe Biden was this completely normal human being. I remember who he was with Clarence Thomas. I remember who he was when he said things like, you can't even go to Dunkin' Donuts without an Indian accent. Or colored kids are just as smart. What is it? Colored kids are just as smart as white kids, or whatever he said, right? I know who Joe Biden is. I still didn't wish him ill. You now had outrage this weekend when Trump was alive because he didn't do social media for 3 days. After he did a ridiculous amount of conferences, press conferences, pressers, whatever, more than Joe Biden could ever hope to do, Trump does it. Oh, yeah. I just wish he was dead. And then they gaslight. Orange man bad, right? Doesn't matter. Tariffs. Tariffs is the funniest thing in the world to me, how people don't understand how tariffs work. But what does the left do? The left tells you they're a tax. Tariff revenue set another record in August. 32.5 or $32 billion in tariff revenue. Chris Hayes over at whatever MSNBC is now says, I've legit never seen a political party brag about jacking up working people's taxes before. It's not a tax. It is not a tax. Yes, some countries who we haven't finished deals with, you may be paying a little more than you were, but guess what? They already have a tariff on shit. Almost every country had this unbelievably huge tariffs on us. Canada had ridiculous tariffs on us. This is to bring the tariffs down. This is to negotiate with them to bring tariffs down, or say to their businesses, or you come into America and you open up. But this is the gaslighting that they do. This is all part of that orange man bad mentality. But you still haven't seen any sort of ideas coming out of them on what they're going to do next. Chicago. It's another one, right? They hate the fact that DC is safer. They hate the fact that they're putting videos up from DC saying, hey, this is great. It's actually safe here. It's actually nice here. I don't have to walk. I saw a kid the other day who said, I don't have to walk down the street and wonder if I'm going to get robbed because I have the National Guard over there. They're cool guys. Right? Chicago. They don't want federal help in Chicago because then it shows that they could have done it all along. But if they keep people dying and if they keep people getting shot and robbed and crime goes through the roof, then who's the common savior? Oh, government. I can come in and say all of these bullshit things and programs and midnight basketball and blah, 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 that I'm going to do, and it's going to save us. And these people will vote for me again because they're stupid enough to do it. You went from the Guppy mayor there, Lightfoot, who all of a sudden made an appearance in the news this week, to this current mayor who's worse than Lightfoot. And they all fell for the same shit. But they see what's going on in Chicago, and they see, not Chicago, DC, and they realize we don't have to live like that. But yet you have J.B. Pritzker and the mayor and others coming out orange man bad. Oh, Trump doesn't want to save lives, even though he would be saving lives. He doesn't want to save lives. This is just so he could take over the country with the National Guard. And I'm not I'm not dumping on the work that the National Guard does, but he has the entire military. He could have done that really, if he's going to suspend posse comitatus and go for it, he could have done it a million times over, and he hasn't yet. Why? He's using the National Guard on purpose. Yeah. In LA, he called in the Marines. They were protecting federal buildings. By the way, as I talked about in BZ show last night, or I commented, the case is going to get overturned that the LA judge decided. That's all bullshit. Don't fall. We've seen all these cases get overturned, right? They're activist judges. Another portion of Orange Men Bad is these activist judges, right? These judges who no longer follow the rule of law. They follow the rule of emotion. But yeah, so you have them so afraid of what Chicago might look like if it gets cleaned up. Kids can actually play outside. They can maybe go to school. Maybe you can start focusing on school when your entire budget isn't trying to solve endless amounts of homicides. As Mayor Beetlejuice and Mayor Mohawk, mission ready men. That's awesome. When your whole budget doesn't have to go to investigating homicides, when you're having less deaths by maybe more than just one a day than Mogadishu. But they don't want that. They don't want Trump to have any success, because even though they don't have ideas, Orange Man bad. That's their only idea. And why is that? I get 10 minutes left. Why did we come all the way down this path and walk us all the way to today and kind of revisit history and talk about how they used media against us, how the government was doing shit behind closed doors, how they absolutely attacked a guy who was an outsider because, hey, he doesn't play ball like the rest of us do. And we've been running this show for years. This is our livelihood. This is what we do. We use taxpayers' money in ways that they'll never know. We control what they consume mentally, what they consume online. We control the message overseas. We blow shit up when we need to. We support this. We support that. We spend all of this taxpayers' money that they don't even know where it goes, and they don't have to know where it goes, the morons. And then you have a guy who said, hey, what if we started showing them where it goes? All of a sudden, they try to kill him twice. There's a reason for that. See, because while they're sitting there yelling Orange Man bad and having no ideas whatsoever, you had what's his name there, Dollar Store Obama say, was it today, that no Democrat's going to get behind a bipartisan bill just because for the continuing resolution. We just won't get with that. Well, why? Because it's a bipartisan bill. We don't do that. It's either our ideas or none, which we don't have any ideas, so it's none. It all boils down to this. The more Trump shows, the more he exposes the government for what it is, the more we see out of Tulsi Gabbard releases, the more we see out of the FBI releases, the more we see out of USAID, in which Doge showed us, the less control they have over the people. And that's what it all comes down to. It's all about fucking control. It is all about making sure that you shut your mouth, go to your job, make them tax money, come home, don't do anything, don't live any sort of civil and fun life, don't go on vacations, don't buy things that you want, don't buy a house, don't raise a family, don't do any of that shit unless we tell you. That's what they want. They claim it's authoritarianism from Trump when they're the ones who for years have been the authoritarians in this country. Both sides of the aisle. Both sides. And it's why now all they have is Orange Man Trump, because they can never go back. Everything that Trump's successful with and shows the American people what you can do if you actually invest in it, how you can protect people, how you can fight tariffs, how you can actually make companies come back to America, how you can lower gas prices, all this stuff. Because now they realize the internet's forever. People can look this up in a minute and they can never go back. And if they can never go back, then they can never regain the control over people like you and I and have us where they want us again. So they can run their forever wars. So they can spend money overseas on shit that we know nothing about. So they can keep putting us into trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. Our debt is absolutely out of control and they want to spend more money, not less. And yeah, the big, beautiful bill spent more money, but we're also taking in more money. Trump was talking today about maybe eventually getting rid of income tax. He gave a whole history of how there used to not be an income tax, and we funded the whole country off of tariffs. Can you imagine if you lived in a state like, I don't know, Florida, where you have no state income tax, and then the federal government eventually gets rid of the federal tax? Can you imagine how much better your life would be if everything was still funded? Would you pay maybe $1 more for that, whatever it is, avocado that comes from Mexico? Would you pay $100 more for a computer? Maybe a couple $1,000 more for a foreign car? Pay a little luxury tax on it, maybe? Yeah, because you're saving way more than that in your payroll taxes. You're saving way more than that when you sell something, right? Capital gains, all of that shit. Get rid of it. You can do a luxury tax, sure. You can do a consumption tax, okay. I understand that. But I'll tell you right now, nobody, when you get your tax forms at the end of January and you look at how much you pay for your federal taxes and your state taxes, if you live in a state that gets those, and then you look at the debt and you look at how much is going to be saddled onto our children in the future because they can't get their heads out of their asses, do you feel like your government is serving you in a manner that they are supposed to be? Are they living up to the founders' theories and what the founders saw for this country? And the answer is no. And you know it, and I know it. And I'll tell you right now, once again, Donald Trump is not a perfect human being, and he never will be. But it's so funny to see them just scream Orange Man bad like just little petulant children, have zero ideas of their own, and can hardly articulate why it's bad. I thought I had the clip here somewhere. I was just looking for it. But what's his name there for the Daily Wire was on CNN the other night. And they just like threw out all these bold-faced lies right in front of him. And he was like, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. They're struggling. They're absolutely struggling right now because they can't control the narrative. And because things can be looked up and things can be proven. They don't want that. They don't like that. I guarantee you that if Democrats come back into full power, that the restrictions on the internet is going to go through the roof. What you're seeing in England,
who is regularly
and I don't cover a lot of England stuff because we have enough of our own problems. God knows we have enough of our own problems. But I have said before, no people is perfect, but yet Democrats say they are. Yeah, absolutely, Phantom. They 100% talk about how perfect they are when nobody is. But you look over to the UK right now, and you look at what's going on over there, and you look at just how bad it is. Nigel Farage came here. Now, in the UK, there were 30 people arrested this week for internet posts. There was a Irish comedian who was coming to the country to do a show, I believe, that was arrested when he got off the plane. I can never go to Europe. I can never go to the UK. I'll get arrested. I'll tell you that right now. I'll get arrested because of all the things that I tweeted and said. Yeah, the American media maggots are no longer the gatekeepers. 100% BZ. It's finally shifted. But Nigel Farage came over here to talk about how bad things are in Europe. And I want you to see Jamie Raskin's response and tell me if this is not the response of a crazy person.
We had about free speech, and after 3 minutes of talking, he cut me off and terminated the meeting because he didn't like what I was saying. That's the kind of free speech he's committed to. There is a free speech crisis in America today, but there's no free speech crisis in Britain. What? UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has not shut down GB News, where Mr. Farage has his own show, just because Mr. Farage has used his airtime to call for banning peaceful protests that he disagrees with. No one has stopped him from going on Russian TV 17 times and saying also and repeating that the one world political leader he most admired was Vladimir Putin, even though Vladimir Putin is a war criminal and a dictator who has regularly interfered in other countries' democratic elections. No one has stopped Mr. Farage from parroting Putin's absurd talking points, like when Farage claimed that NATO, the US and Britain, provoked this war in Ukraine. For a man who fashions himself as some kind of a free speech martyr, Mr. Farage seems most at home with the autocrats and dictators of the world who are crushing freedom.
Now, if you've followed anything out of the UK, you'll know that they're shutting down protests they don't agree with. They're arresting people for things that they've said online. Free speech, actual free speech. When you're being a dick to the president and he hangs up on you, that's not saying you don't have free speech. That's just saying I'm not going to listen to this bullshit. But you're Jamie Raskin. You can go in front of a camera in 5 minutes and say everything you wanted to say. But no, he's going to sit there and spend his time instead of showing, look, If he wanted to, he could have easily turned around and maybe tried to point out 10 different things about the free speech they do have and try to hide behind that. But he didn't. He went on a whirlwind speech about Russia, how Trump's evil, and ignores everything that's going on in the UK right now. And I said before, I said on Sackheads years ago, the UK is always 5 to 10 years ahead of us when it comes to bad policy. I'll tell you right now, if Democrats take over, we'll be right where the UK is and less than that. And it's a tragedy and it's sad. And folks, that's it for me. Thank you so much for walking down this path with us. Thank you for reliving some of this history. I think it's important to show the context of how we got to where we are. I think it's important to show that the Democrats have nothing but orange man bad, and they will have nothing but orange man bad because they don't have any ideas of their own, because all of their ideas have been exposed and the American people hate it, plain and simple. Watch what happens with Prop 50 in California. I don't think it's going to pass. I don't think it's going to pass. That's all the Democrats have right now going into the midterms is the hope of Prop 50, the redistricting thing. And I don't think it's going to happen. But time, as always, will tell. Folks, that's it for me on the Edge of Liberty right here. Check out our friends over at KLRN Radio. They are amazing folks over there, and I thank them so much. Every Monday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific now on the East Coast. And I know that he's getting closer to coming back. His studio is going to eventually be freed up again. You're going to have the Reaver of Common Sense, the Ever of Common Sense, Jersey Joe. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 on the East Coast. You have my good man, my friend, my buddy, guy I've known for decades now. God, we're oldie. Mission Ready Men with Big E, an awesome show. Tuesday and Thursday night, the bulbous one himself, BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. On Sundays at 5 p.m. Pacific, you have the Cosmic Bard Show, The Lost Wanderer. It is incredible. You got to check it out. It's actually been getting some great plays, so I really, really appreciate that. And we may be adding one here soon. So stick around. Please like and subscribe. Support the channel. It means the world to us. Like I said, we went from 250 followers to up over 609 now in a course of a few short months. So please keep building. Like I said, even if you hate us, come in here and argue with us. And that's going to be it. That's a so show. Thank you to everybody in chat. Thank you to Mike for donating earlier. I greatly appreciate that. And thank you to Trump, because now I'm not going to have to pay for it. Orty, Whiskey Dale, BZ, the Phantom, Kiwi Lass, all the way from New Zealand, spending her time with us. Mission Ready Men, of course. Thank you all. It means the world to me. Orty, Rick, Cosmic Bard. It just is what it is. What is the Bobcat's name? It's Clyde. It is Clyde. Clyde the Glide. That is the Bobcat's name on the Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. I will see you Monday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, right here on the SHR Media Network with the Edge of Liberty. Good night.